Hey everyone and welcome to the Learning Ladder. I thought I'd do my birth story video finally. I've been meaning to make this video for a few weeks now, so he's actually 4 weeks old as of yesterday. It's crazy, the time has just flown by. So I'll do my birth story, I'll talk about C-section, recovery, and just how we've been doing really overall. So yeah, let's just get started. So birth story. So if you've watched any of my previous videos, you know that I had a really great pregnancy. There was nothing that went wrong particularly. I didn't have excessive morning sickness. The only thing I had was heartburn pretty much throughout. I also got anemia again, so I had to have an iron transfusion. But other than that, it was smooth sailing. Blood pressure in urine was always completely normal. I didn't take the aspirin, but which obviously was a gamble because you don't know either way, but it worked out fine. I didn't have any blood pressure issues or anything like that. So it was a gamble that was worthwhile. I did talk about why I wasn't taking the aspirin in my, I think it was my 20-week update. I explained why I decided not to take it. But in my case, it worked out fine. And yeah, everything was going great. There was a query about the placenta being low, but then that moved up. Then there was a query about him being breech and then oblique, but then he got head down, so everything was fine. But the problem I had was I did not go into labour. Would I have gone into labour eventually? Probably. But we were approaching the 42 weeks and I still hadn't. So we went to the hospital at 41 weeks and let me see, 41 weeks and 3 days. And we tried to do induction. So they tried to do the balloon method, which was an absolute disaster. It hurt so bad. My cervix was in the wrong place. They were trying to literally pull it into position. It was so painful, absolutely agony. I would not recommend doing that unless your cervix is in the right position, because it's not going to move. And 3 people tried it. They tried it twice each person, so 6 times in total. So first with fingers, then with the speculum, and it was just absolutely awful, horrible experience. So I said I didn't want to do the gel. I wanted to do oxytocin drip instead, and that's not the protocol that they use. And finally, the consultant got permission from the hospital that we could do the oxytocin drip as long as I accepted the risk factors for it was to do with the amniotic fluid and not your waters not being broken first, so embolism. Nervous about accepting that risk because who knows. And at this point, after everything that I'd gone through with the attempted induction, I was just like, no, I'm just done. I just want the only option that was left, which was to do the C-section. I'd said all along I didn't want a C-section. It was like my last resort thing, but it seemed to be the only thing that was left other than doing the gel, which for me felt too risky because it can cause overstimulation of the with the contractions and everything, which can impact the baby and make them in distress, in which case you end up in an emergency C-section. And from everything I've read, that's worse than having a regular C-section. I don't know for sure, but that's just what I've heard. More panicked and everything else. So we decided to go for a C-section. So I went in at 41 weeks and 5 days to have my C-section. There he is, stirring. Let's see if he stays awake or if he goes back to sleep again. I might just have to feed him 1 second. Oh, maybe not. Okay. We'll also talk about breastfeeding as well, because I think that's really important, especially if you're having a C-section, because I had a lot of fears around that too. So when at 41 weeks and 5 days to have the C-section, I'd still hoped that I'd go up into labour up until that point. The only thing that happened was I was losing a bit of mucus plug, but that could have been because of all the rummaging around from them trying to do the Foley balloon. So I never know if that was actually genuine, I was losing mucus plug, or if it was just them rummaging around. I still in the back of my head think, oh, should I have just waited? But then there's always the fear. I had an ultrasound and everything looked fine in terms of the fluid and everything, but you don't know, do you? So went in at 41 weeks and 5 days to have the C-section. So they took you to it's like the high dependency area first, and I thought that's where I'd stay, but I didn't. I ended up having to move somewhere else, which wasn't as nice as that one in theory, but it's one of those things. So not when I say not as nice as mean, it's just as in there was nobody there apart from me in that first bit, which was really nice. It wasn't like a single room or anything. It was a ward, but I was the only one there, which was great. So we went there. The midwife was so nice, and she had a student with her, and she was really nice as well. We got settled in, and they did all the observations and everything, and then we got taken down to the theatre. We had to wait outside for a little bit, and then we went in, and it was really calm, relaxed. It was an all-woman team, which was kind of cool. So it was the surgeon, on obviously all the anaesthetist and all the staff and everything, and they were just walking you through everything, explaining everything. I just remember the room being quite small, which I always imagined like theatres to be super big, but they have a specific theatre for C-sections there, so I think it's smaller for that reason. And it was just really smooth sailing in terms of everything, in terms of them setting everything up and everything. Really calm and relaxed. So I had a spinal, and it felt super strange, but it wasn't bad or anything. It just felt really weird how quickly you went numb. I'd had an epidural with my first pregnancy, and they are very different. I actually prefer the spinal than I did the epidural. The epidural wrecked my back, and I don't know if that was because of obviously having to push on my back, which could quite have been the reason, or it could have just been from the epidural. I don't know, but I didn't have any back issues at all after the spinal, which was really nice. So I had the spinal. The C-section, in terms of them starting the procedure, I didn't feel really anything. I felt a bit of like, I've heard it described as washing up. It feels like someone's washing up in your stomach, and I felt a bit of that, but not massively at all. It was really, I just lay there, but I was just uncomfortable because I had my arms like, you have your arms laid out to the sides, which is a really unnatural position. And other than that, I can't really say there was much to be commented on in terms of how it felt or anything, other than no pain. I didn't feel any kind of, it wasn't uncomfortable. I didn't have any pressure or anything like that. It was just fine. The biggest difference for me was, the biggest difference for me was when he was born. When they took him out, obviously. When like in a normal delivery, you get the baby quite quickly, whereas it felt like forever until they brought him over to me. They were doing all the checks and everything. I don't know if it's because it was a student as well. She was a bit slower, I don't know, but it just felt like forever, literally, until I could hold him. And then they put him on my chest, and obviously my arms are out flat. I could move one hand to like try and hold him, but because the drip, I was still on the drip at the time, the IV, and it kept getting blocked because of my, like, where I was positioned. She kept having to say, straighten your arm, so it was like really hard. So we tried to do like the skin to skin, and he was in there, but I wouldn't say it was very comfortable until we were out of the theatre. And again, it seemed to take ages for them to sew me up and everything, but time is lost in terms of when you're there. Everything seems longer, but it was literally ages until they brought him over to me. That's what it felt like. And I hated it because I could see him. They like wheeled him around so I could see what they were doing, but I just wanted to hold him, and it just felt like so long. Anyway, so that was the saddest part of the actual whole thing, was how long to me, in terms of like, it felt like until I could hold him. So then we went into recovery, and we were doing skin to skin. I kept him skin to skin for hours, because I was really concerned about not having the oxytocin release like you do normally from a vaginal delivery, and I really wanted to breastfeed. So he had his skin to skin. He latched straight away. It was amazing. Didn't have any sore nipples or anything like that. It was just, his latch was perfect, which was so different to my daughter because it took 6 weeks to get a good latch with her. But he latched straight away. No issues with breastfeeding whatsoever. It was just like he was born to breastfeed. He just knew what he was doing straight away. So I had already decided in my head that I wanted to go home the next day. So I wanted to stay for the minimum time, which was the 24 hours, and then I wanted to go home because of the fact we lived so far away from the hospital, the fact that my daughter wasn't allowed there, aside from during visiting hours. We've got the dogs and the cat and everything. It was just difficult. So I'd said to the midwife before, just do whatever you need to do to make sure I can go home. So make me do whatever I need to do, the steps, so that I can go home tomorrow. So there was things like, you had to get catheter out, you had to pee a certain amount, you had to have a shower, you had to walk around. He had to have his bowel movement and pee, you also had to see the pediatrician. So those were all kind of things we had to do. So I was like, okay, fine, just get me ready to go home tomorrow. So they sort the catheter out, and then I had my shower. In terms of pain, it was painful. I will not lie, it was painful, but I could cope with it. So it was just like paracetamol that they were giving you, but I did have oral morph twice during that first few hours afterwards. But other than that, it was mainly just paracetamol that they gave you. And then when you went home, you could have diclofenac, but I hated that. It made me feel awful, so I didn't take it. So I just alternated paracetamol and ibuprofen. So I did everything I needed to do, so did he. So then we could go home the next day, which was amazing. That night I slept terribly because I was right by the window. We got moved to a separate ward bit. Again, it was like a 4-bay ward, but it was all occupied at that point. Everyone had their own babies there. And obviously you don't sleep because everyone's babies are waking up, but also the wind, there was like some kind of storm. I was right by the window, and I've never heard wind like that. It was crazy. So I didn't sleep a wink all night, but that's absolutely fine. I just wanted to go home anyway. So we were discharged and got to go home. It was not fun driving home. Oh my gosh, when I say it was not fun, it was so painful. I had like this pillow on my stomach, but every pothole, because it's a very windy road journey, it's like 3.5 hours. Obviously it took longer because I was having to stop to feed, so it took about 5 hours to get home, and it was awful. I knew it would be in terms of the pain. He was actually really good in terms of he slept for quite a lot of the journey, apart from obviously when he was waking up to feed. But yeah, it was just awful. But I knew it was going to be, but I wanted to go home, so we had to do this eventually anyway. So what difference did it make? I was so happy to get home, and to me it was worth it to go home the next day, and be in my own house. So the next day so basically he was born on the 11th. We stayed in the hospital, went home on the 12th, and then on the 13th the midwife came to see me at home, and she had looked at my dressing, and I had what was called a pico dressing, which is apparently supposed to be really good. So it's like this special type of dressing where it has like this little battery operated control box with it, and it kind of does its own little ventilation and suction and all kinds of stuff to help keep the wound clean. So she looked at my wound and she's like, "You've got a giant blister." And I'm like, "I do?" Because I can't feel anything, and I still can't feel anything in my stomach at all. I'm just completely numb. And I was like, "Really?" She's like, "Yes, you have a giant blister. You need to come to the hospital to get it checked." So when I said the hospital, I mean our local one, the local maternity one. Well, it's not maternity, but the local section that they have that for maternity, which is one room basically. A quick break. Well, nappy change. And then we're back. I'm going to make dinner though, so we'll catch up in a bit. I'm going to be doing a newborn favourites video, but one of the things that I've loved having above his changing table is this little decal thing. He loves looking at it, the little bear, and he started smiling now and he smiles at the bear. It's the cutest thing ever. It came in like a multi-pack, so definitely recommend them, but I'll talk about our favourites in a video coming up. So I go to the centre, the midwife centre. Again, the potholes around here are crazy, so I'm in so much pain driving there. Well, I didn't drive obviously, but I was in so much pain getting there. But I had to do it. So the senior midwife looked at it, said the dressing needed to come off, and she got the doctor and the nurse from A&E to give her a second opinion. They said to put this special kind of dressing on, regular dressing on the actual cesarean wound, but a special dressing on, like a pressure sore dressing on the blister. So I had one giant blister on one side, and then on the other side I had a line of small blisters all around the dressing, where it expanded past the actual C-section scar. So it wasn't on the C-section scar, it was like around the edges of the side of my stomach where the adhesive dressing had expanded to. So did I have an allergic reaction to it? Possibly. Very likely because I've got sensitive skin, or it could have been that the dressing was too tight with it being a vacuum one, and that made the skin blister. I don't know. All I know is it was bad. So afterwards, the dressing on the C-section scar, they just put on like a regular plaster, and to be honest, that worked absolutely fine. So
why I needed this special dressing, I don't know, and whether it was actually worth it. I don't think it was in my case, because I have had so many issues with that stupid blister. So not so much the small ones, but the giant one, because every time I took the dressing off to change it, it would pull the skin off, and then we'd start the process all over again. So there'd be all the weeping and the pussing, and it was absolutely gross. Finally, 4 weeks later, it stopped doing that. It's still really red and pink, but it's not pussing or weeping anymore, and I'm not having a dressing now, I'm just air drying, and not having any skin coming off, which is amazing. So I think it's finally started to heal, but it's just taking a really long time. So that was like the biggest side effect, I guess, of the actual C-section that I've had, other than the usual, you know, aches and pains. So I stopped taking my medication on day 4. So I was taking paracetamol and ibuprofen because I didn't like diclofenac. It made me feel really weird. So I'd alternate take paracetamol and ibuprofen, but on day 4 I felt like I could stop. The pain wasn't gone, but I just felt like it was manageable, and I hate taking tablets anyway. So I just decided on day 4 to stop taking it. So the main side effects, other than the blister, is just the regular healing, and that's not being able to bend, which is an absolute pain in the bum. I can't bend because it hurts. Still at week 4, I still can't bend properly. I can kind of a little bit now, but nowhere near like normal. I can't, well, I can, but the stairs are an absolute pain. So going up and down the stairs is really painful, still at 4 weeks past. Not to the point, obviously, as I said, I don't need medication. It's just not the most comfortable thing. It just feels like a dragging, like a stretching in your stomach every time. So those are the main things, but overall, I feel like I'm getting better every day. It's just really frustrating as it feels like it's taking forever. I just want to be back to normal, but I know it takes time, and I've had major surgery, and you know, you have to be patient. But after being pregnant and like, you know, really being happy and excited about being able to go back to normal and do normal stuff, it's like, oh, another 6 weeks. But it's only another 2 weeks now, hopefully, and then I'll be, as far as I know, most people say that 6 weeks they feel pretty much back to normal. So I'm really hoping that's the case. On the positive side, I know I feel better every day. I couldn't even get out of bed without like leaning on a shelf. Now I can do that perfectly fine. So I do know it is getting better. It just feels like it's taking forever. But that's just probably my impatience, because I just want to be back to normal and be able to do all my usual stuff. So after having a vaginal birth and a cesarean birth, the question is, which is better? Vaginal all the way. I would not have a cesarean. It's just, if you have an option, then if you think, oh, I'll go for the C-section, it's easier than the vaginal delivery, it's not. I had a 2nd degree tear, which was a really painful one because it was a urethral tear with my vaginal pregnancy, and I still vaginal birth, and I still maintain that was so much easier recovery than the C-section recovery. So yeah, if you have a choice, go for vaginal delivery all the way. But you know, I think I got off quite easily in terms of my actual C-section, and my recovery has been smooth. So I think I've been lucky in that respect. It just feels like it's taking forever. I know it's not. It just feels like it is, but I know every day I'm getting better. So that's pretty much it for the birth story. If you've got any questions about the C-section or anything, let me know. All I would say is that pico dressing was not worth it. I would much rather have just had a regular dressing, and I wouldn't have had all these additional blister problems. So I don't know. I've googled it, and apparently it can be user error, so they could have put it on too tight, which causes blisters, or it could just been that my skin reacted to it, which is very possible because I do have sensitive skin. So who knows? But yeah, breastfeeding is going amazing. So that was one of the things that concerned me about having a C-section, because they say your milk can come in slower and everything else. That has not happened to me. Everything has been great, and like I said, his latch has been so much better than my daughter's. I haven't even had to use nipple cream. It's been that easy. Whether that's because I breastfed before, and I breastfed for like 2.5 years, I don't know. All I know is that it's been amazing. A dream in terms of no issues whatsoever. So that has been really good, especially with the C-section, to know that part of it hasn't been affected. What else really? He's just doing amazing. He's actually feeding right now, so I can't. You see his head. There he is. Flash my boob. You see his head. But yes, he is doing amazing. He started to smile, as I said. Obviously he was smiling before, but it's like purposeful smiling now. It's not just, I've got gas or whatever. You know, he'll smile in response to you. It's not at the point where it's like all the time, so I think, you know, that'll come obviously, but it's where it's noticeable now, which is amazing, because it's just like, oh, I love it so much. He's got the cutest little smile. Really, he's a really good baby. He really is. He loves his boob. He's a boob man. He loves to be held. He does not like to be put down, but I mean, I think that's typical for all newborns. My daughter was the same, so he likes to be held at all times by me. But again, I am loving it, so, you know, not complaining one little bit. I've, you know, learned to eat one-handed again, like I did with my daughter. But yes, it's just absolutely, I'm in bliss. It's just amazing. That's why I have been making videos, because I'm just treasuring this time, because I know it goes so fast. But yeah, my memory is about to run out on my phone, so thank you so much for watching. If you've got any questions, let me know. I'll be doing a newborn favourites video soon, so take care. See you soon.